Even a pastor's daughter can fall into temptation. How much more vulnerable are ordinary people like us? Being raised in the faith does not make you an exception or give you special favor. It is not a shield that protects you. This near-death experience is a warning to anyone who is drifting away from God. This pastor's daughter chose to chase after sin and ended up facing the horrors of hell. But God's mercy always makes a way. She was given a second chance to return and change, but the visions she witnessed in hell will remain an unforgettable nightmare. What did this young woman see in hell? What led to God's forgiveness? Stay with us until the end to discover the answers and to recognize the very mistakes you might be making without even realizing it. But first, comment "I choose Jesus" along with your name and where you're from as a declaration of your faith and your faith in your readiness to surrender to God's will. Our mission this year is to spread the truth as far and wide as possible, because a major event is coming in the near future, one we are not yet allowed to reveal. If you're able, please consider supporting us through Super Thanks Supertron. This mission can reach even more souls. Now, please listen to this woman's testimony, because each phase she experienced in hell reveals a specific sin she unknowingly committed. My name is Luna Young, and I grew up in a devout Christian home. From an early age, my parents taught me about God's love, how to live according to biblical principles, and the value of a life dedicated to faith. My father, always steadfast, would read scripture passages aloud every night, while my mother, with endless patience, made it a point to teach me how to pray before bed. I remember happy moments like Sundays with the family at church, the dresses my mother chose for me, and the pastor's warm handshake as we left the service. Back then, it felt like the world was a safe and predictable place, one where God was at the center of everything. Those memories of church family and a deep spiritual connection to faith shaped my early years, filling them with warmth and security. As I grew older, I began to question whether that center was truly mine or just something I had inherited. The idea of freedom started to seem far more appealing than the rules and boundaries my parents held so dear. I remember when that began to change. It was during my teenage years, as I listened to my schoolmates talk about parties, relationships, and freedom. I felt out of place, trapped in a bubble that seemed too small for my dreams and desires. I wanted to live, to experience the world, to see what existed beyond the walls of the church and family lessons. Slowly, the faith that once seemed so important became just another detail of my past, something I respected but no longer felt as my own. At first, it was a subtle transition. I started forgetting to pray, then Sundays at church were replaced with other activities. I remember the first time I made an excuse not to go to the service. I said I needed to study but spent the entire morning in bed, watching movies and dreaming of a different life where I made the rules. My heart, which once warmed at the sound of hymns, now felt distant, almost cold. Little by little, I convinced myself that I could be happy without God, that I didn't need to follow the path I had been taught. It felt like too many rules, like I was trapped. I told myself I was young, that I had plenty of time to worry about those things later. By the time I entered college, my independence felt complete. Far from home and the watchful eyes of my parents, I was free to do whatever I wanted. Parties, new friends, and experiences that once seemed out of reach became part of my routine. I felt free, but deep down, a small, insistent voice kept telling me something was wrong. I always ignored it. After all, I believed freedom was all I needed, even though it was slowly pulling me away from who I truly was. Luke was everything any girl could wish for. He was caring, loving, and dedicated to me in a way that made me feel special. From the moment we started dating, he made it clear he wanted a future with me: marriage, kids, a cozy home where we'd build our life together. He talked about our plans with so much enthusiasm it was impossible not to be touched. Even so, something inside me no longer connected with that dream. Maybe it was because I felt disconnected, not just from God, but from everything Luke represented: stability, commitment, and a quiet life. Despite this, I still kept the engagement, more out of habit and the pressure of everyone around us than genuine desire. I liked Luke, but not enough to share his excitement for our future together. A restless afternoon found me sprawled across the couch, the quiet hum of my apartment amplifying my unease. My mind churned with thoughts of a life unlived, stifled by the routine of college, work, and expectations from Luke and my parents. I longed for something to break the monotony, to make me feel alive. When my phone buzzed, Clara's name on the screen sparked a mix of excitement and apprehension. Her call promised adventure, a pull I wasn't sure I could resist. Clara, my closest friend, had a gift for making the ordinary extraordinary. Her infectious energy could transform any plan into a thrill. She wasted no time, her voice brimming with urgency as she described an exclusive party, vibrant music, new faces, and a chance to escape. The invitation clashed with my plans for a dinner with Luke, where he intended to discuss our wedding. The thought of another evening weighed down by talk of venues and vows tightened my chest. I hesitated, torn between duty and desire. Luke's kindness and love were undeniable, his vision of our future a constant in my life. Yet I felt disconnected, unable to match his enthusiasm. Clara's words fanned a yearning for freedom, painting a night where I could shed the roles of pastor's daughter and dutiful fiancée. The party was a chance to taste the life I'd only dreamed of, unshackled from expectations. The struggle within me was intense. Luke deserved my presence, his steady devotion a reminder of the promises I'd made. But the allure of escape grew stronger, drowning out my sense of obligation. I chose to yield, agreeing to join Clara, though I needed an excuse to avoid Luke's disappointment. Her excitement sealed my decision, urging me to prepare for the evening. Contacting Luke was a challenge. My fingers lingered over his name, guilt simmering as I crafted a lie. When I called, his warm voice nearly swayed me to reconsider. I claimed a headache, suggesting we postpone the dinner. His immediate concern, offering to bring medicine, deepened my shame, but I held firm, insisting I needed rest. The call ended with his reluctant agreement, leaving me with a mix of relief and regret. My parents posed another obstacle. Their strict oversight had intensified as they sensed my drift from faith. I fabricated a story about a college project at Clara's house, deflecting my mother's worried questions with quick assurances. Her maternal instinct seemed to detect my deceit, but I brushed it aside, determined to move forward. They remained unaware of my true destination, a lively city party. I dressed with care, choosing a sleek outfit that felt bold, a departure from my usual self. In the mirror, I saw a confident stranger, eager to embrace the night. The reflection wasn't the girl bound by church or engagement, but someone free to choose her path. I left the apartment, the doors click, a quiet rebellion against my responsibilities. Clara met me with enthusiasm, her energy infectious as we headed to the party. The city lights blurred past, mirroring my rising anticipation. The venue pulsed with life-throbbing music, flashing lights, and a crowd moving as one. The atmosphere washed away my lingering guilt, drawing me into a world of uninhibited joy. The party lived up to Clara's promises. Laughter and music enveloped us as we danced, the rhythm erasing the weight of my obligations. For the first time in months, I felt unburdened, alive in a way I hadn't been. Clara's vibrant presence kept me anchored, guiding me through the sea of strangers who welcomed us with open smiles. A man named Liam joined us, his charm effortless and disarming. His conversation drew me in, making the night feel effortless. He stayed close, his attention flattering as we mingled with others. The hours slipped away, the music and lights creating a haze of euphoria. I was lost in the moment, content to belong. Late in the night, Liam produced a small bag, offering a substance with a casual smile. My heart raced, recognizing the danger. Instinct urged me to refuse, but Clara's encouragement and the group's expectant gazes pressured me. Their approval felt like a key to this vibrant world, and I wavered. Against my better judgment, I accepted, silencing the warning within me. The choice felt small at the moment, but it would change everything. The moment I took the substance, I braced myself, expecting an immediate change. At first, there was nothing, just the same pulsing music and swirling lights of the party. Then, like a wave crashing over me, a warmth spread through my body, starting at my chest and radiating outward. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt, a sensation of lightness that made me feel as if I were floating above the crowd. The world around me sharpened, the music grew richer, the lights danced in vivid patterns, and the laughter of those around me felt like a melody. I turned to Clara, my smile wide, and she laughed, her face glowing with shared excitement. "See? I told you it's amazing," she shouted over the music. For a moment I forgot everything, my parents' worried faces, Luke's disappointed voice, the faith I'd left behind. All that mattered was this euphoria, this sense of being untethered from my past. I danced with abandon, my body moving in sync with the rhythm, feeling like I was part of something bigger, something alive. As the night deepened, I surrendered fully to the experience. Drinks were passed around, each one loosening my inhibitions further. The substance Liam had given me seemed to meld with the alcohol, creating a haze that dulled my sense of time. I laughed with strangers, shared stories with people I'd never see again, and felt a freedom I'd never known. It was as if I'd shed the weight of my identity, the pastor's daughter, the fiancée, the girl who always played by the rules. Clara stayed by my side, her energy fueling my own. She introduced me to new faces, each one welcoming me into their circle. Liam reappeared, his charm unwavering, offering more of the substance. "You're having fun, right?" he asked, his eyes locking with mine. I nodded, too caught up in the moment to question anything. I took another dose, the warmth returning, stronger this time, pulling me deeper into the haze. The party seemed to stretch on forever, a whirlwind of sound and color. I caught glimpses of myself in reflective surfaces, a girl with flushed cheeks, eyes bright with excitement, but also a stranger I barely recognized. Deep down, a faint voice whispered that this wasn't me, that I was losing something precious. But I pushed it away, telling myself I deserved this night, this chance to live without boundaries. Around 4 a.m., a shift occurred. My heart began to race, not with excitement, but with an unsettling intensity. A strange discomfort settled in my chest, like a weight pressing down. I excused myself from the group, my steps unsteady as I made my way to the bathroom. The music faded behind me, replaced by the sound of my own uneven breathing. I needed to pull myself together, to shake off this feeling and return to the fun. In the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against the sink, staring at my reflection. My face was pale, my eyes wide with something I couldn't name, fear perhaps, or regret. I splashed cold water on my face, hoping it would clear the fog in my mind. But the discomfort grew, morphing into a burning heat that seemed to consume me from within. My hands trembled as I gripped the sink, my vision blurring at the edges. A sharp pain stabbed through my chest, stealing my breath. My legs buckled, and I collapsed to the floor, the cold tiles a shock against my skin. Panic surged as I gasped for air, my heart pounding erratically. I tried to call out, but my voice was a weak whisper, lost in the chaos of my failing body. The world spun, and darkness crept in, swallowing the light. As my breathing slowed, something extraordinary happened. I felt a strange detachment, as if I were being pulled away from myself. I saw my body lying motionless on the floor, my face pale and still. Yet I was separate, floating above, weightless but filled with confusion. What's happening? I thought, but there were no answers, only a growing sense of dread. An invisible force tugged at me, gentle at first, then insistent. The bathroom faded, replaced by a void of silence. The party's music, the laughter, the chaos, all of it vanished, leaving me alone in a darkness I couldn't comprehend. I was adrift, caught in a current I couldn't fight. Fear replaced the euphoria, and I realized I was no longer in control. The void seemed to stretch on forever, a liminal space between life and something else. Memories flickered, my mother's prayers, my father's voice reading scripture, Luke's hopeful smile. Each one felt like a lifeline, but they slipped through my grasp. I wanted to cry out, to return to the safety of my old life, but I was powerless, carried forward by a force greater than myself. Suddenly I was yanked forcefully, as if something or someone had grabbed me. The lightness gave way to an abrupt and violent movement, like being sucked into a whirlpool. There was no control, only darkness. At first I tried to understand, but soon fear consumed me. I knew exactly what was happening. I knew the truth, even though I had chosen to ignore it for so long. My mind flooded with thoughts I had tried to suppress: the teachings of my parents, the church services, the pastor's words about what happens when we stray from God. The reality of my situation was inescapable. I was being taken, and I knew where. The descent felt endless. I couldn't see anything around me, but I could feel myself being pulled toward a place of no return. When I finally hit the bottom, I was enveloped by a suffocating heat, so intense it felt like it was burning my soul, not just my body. Around me, I heard screams of pure despair, not just of pain, but of souls that had lost all hope. The sound echoed within me, tearing me apart inside. Looking around, I saw shadows moving, menacing figures that seemed to grow larger and closer. Among the shadows, flames illuminated desperate faces, distorted by eternal suffering. It was a horror no words could describe. I was paralyzed with fear, still trying to grasp the magnitude of what had happened to me. The suffocating heat, the screams of the souls around me, and the living darkness seemed to crush me slowly. Then I saw him, a colossal figure, a massive demon, emerged from the shadows, his overwhelming presence filling the space. He was monstrous, his skin appearing to burn, and his eyes glowed with an evil I could not put into words. He laughed mockingly, a sound that made me shudder to the core of my soul. His laughter was like invisible claws tearing apart what little courage I had left. "Welcome, Luna," he said. He spoke with a voice that was both guttural and terrifying. "You know where you are, don't you?" I couldn't respond. I wanted to scream, but the words wouldn't come out. He took a few steps toward me, and with each movement, the ground seemed to tremble. "You're here not just because of the sins you committed, but because you rejected the salvation of Jesus. You knew the truth. You had all the chances, so many opportunities to repent, to change, but you chose your own will, your own pleasure, your freedom. And now, here you are." Tears streamed down my face, but the demon's laughter only grew louder. "Crying changes nothing," it sneered, its eyes glinting with cruel satisfaction. "Your time for choices ended when you fell. Now, you face their consequences." The air thickened, as if my guilt had taken physical form, crushing me under its weight. Every ignored sermon, every moment I'd chosen the world over God, now stood as evidence against me. The demon raised its grotesque hand, and the darkness shifted, revealing a vast expanse of suffering. Thousands of souls writhed in torment, each punishment tailored to their sins. Their cries were a chorus of agony, each note piercing my conscience. I wasn't alone here, but the shared suffering offered no comfort, only a stark reminder of our collective failure. A man nearby was surrounded by demons, their laughter mocking as they forced molten gold into his mouth. His screams were muffled, his face contorted in pain. I knew his story. He'd lived for wealth, believing money could shield him from accountability. Now, his greed was his prison, the gold that once defined him now burning him from within. His agony resonated with me, a warning of the dangers of valuing the temporary over the eternal. Further away, a woman's torment was eerily familiar. She sat in a chair, tying a rope around her neck, her movements mechanical. Each time she died, she rose to repeat the act, trapped in an endless cycle of despair. I understood her pain. She'd taken her life to escape suffering, only to find greater torment here. Her story echoed the emptiness I'd felt, the moments I'd sought escape in parties and drugs. I tried to look away, but the scenes were inescapable. Souls who'd pursued dark practices were now grotesque, their forms shattered and chained by fire. Their moans were a lament, a reminder of the cost of seeking power apart from God. I thought of my own rebellion, my belief that I could live without him, and the parallel was chilling. Nearby, the lustful were tormented by snakes, their bites tearing at their essence without end. Their suffering reflected the fleeting pleasures they'd chased, just as I'd chased the high of the party. Each scene was a mirror, showing the consequences of choices made in life. The justice here was precise, cruel, and unrelenting, with no room for appeal. As I watched, an inner voice spoke cold and clear. This wasn't just punishment, it was revelation. Hell was a reflection of our lives, a distorted image of what we'd valued. My pursuit of freedom, my lies, my rejection of God, they were all here, woven into the torment around me. The realization was a weight I couldn't bear. The demon's voice returned, sharp and accusing. "You see it, don't you?" it said. "Your sins brought you here. You lied to those who loved you, chased pleasures that left you empty, and turned from the one who offered salvation. Its words were a verdict, each one driving the truth deeper into my soul. I wanted to argue, to plead, but I had no defense. The scenes continued, each one more horrific than the last. A man who'd lived for power was crushed under the weight of his own ambition, his screams a warning of the cost of pride. A woman who'd gossiped and slandered was silenced, her mouth sealed by fire. Their punishments were specific, a testament to the precision of this place. I knew my own sins would be judged with the same clarity. As the demon watched me, its eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Your turn is coming," it said, its voice a promise of suffering. I trembled, knowing there was no escape. The weight of my choices pressed down, a sentence I couldn't undo. All I could do was wait, dreading the moment my own torment would begin. The horrors around me were overwhelming, each scream amplifying my guilt. My heart pounded, a relentless drumbeat of fear. What would my judgment be? The question echoed unanswered as the scenes of torment faded. In their place, a cold, artificial light appeared, harsh and unforgiving. A giant screen materialized, its clarity designed to be inescapable. My life began to play out, a movie of every moment I'd lived. The images were vivid, as if someone had recorded my every thought and action. I couldn't look away, forced to confront the truth of my past. The first scene showed me as a child, walking into church with my parents. The sound of a familiar hymn filled the air, stirring memories of safety and faith. I saw myself holding my father's hand, his voice steady as he read the Bible. My mother's gentle touch as she taught me to pray brought tears to my eyes. My young face was full of trust, a stark contrast to the choices I'd made. Those moments felt like another lifetime, a reminder of what I'd lost. The scene shifted, growing darker. I watched myself as a teenager, ignoring my parents' advice. Friends like Clara appeared, their laughter encouraging me to make poor choices. I saw the first time I skipped church, lying about studying while I wasted the day in bed. The memory stung, a reminder of how easily I'd drifted. The screen showed my college years, each party a step further from God. I prioritized fleeting pleasures over faith, leaving my family behind. Each decision was a puzzle piece, building the path to this moment. I ached at the chances I'd ignored, the warnings I'd dismissed as irrelevant. The worst was watching myself justify every choice. I told myself I had time, that faith could wait. The screen revealed my deception, showing how I'd silenced the voice of truth. Each scene was a weight, dragging me deeper into despair. I wanted to scream, to rewrite the past, but it was too late. I saw moments with Luke, his love a constant I'd taken for granted. I watched myself lie to him about the party, his disappointed voice echoing in my ears. The guilt was unbearable, a reminder of the trust I'd betrayed. I'd hurt the one person who'd stood by me, all for a night of false freedom. The screen lingered on the party, showing my laughter, my surrender to the drugs and alcohol. I saw the moment I took the substance from Liam, the hesitation in my eyes giving way to reckless abandon. The choice seemed small then, but here it was monumental, a turning point that led me to this place. As the scenes continued, I saw every lie, every moment of rebellion. The screen was merciless, presenting evidence I couldn't deny. My faith, once a cornerstone, had crumbled under the weight of my desires. I'd known the truth, but chose to ignore it, believing I could outrun the consequences. The final scene showed me collapsing in the bathroom, my body still on the cold floor. The image was haunting, a reminder of how close I'd come to losing everything. The screen went dark, leaving me in silence. The weight of my choices was a judgment, undeniable and final. I stood before the screen, my soul laid bare. Regret consumed me, but in this place it felt futile. The demons watched, their presence a constant threat. I knew this was only the beginning, a prelude to the torment that awaited me. The darkness returned, heavier than before. A horrifying truth settled over me. I was in hell, not just for my sins, but for rejecting the grace of Jesus Christ. Each choice to follow my own will, to ignore the love offered to me, now bound me like chains. I could no longer deny my responsibility. My parents had shown me the path, and others had shared the truth, but I'd turned away. Memories of missed opportunities flooded my mind. I saw my mother's tearful prayers, my father's patient teachings, the kindness of church members who'd reached out. Each moment was a chance to change, but I dismissed them, believing I had endless time. That illusion was my undoing, a lie that now consumed me. I fell to my knees, the ground searing my skin. The pain was nothing compared to the agony in my soul. "God, please forgive me," I sobbed, my voice breaking. "I know I rejected you, but please give me a chance." My words were desperate, a plea born of regret and fear. Demons emerged from the shadows, their laughter cruel and mocking. "Forgiveness," one sneered, its voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can beg your way out now? Your time is over, young." Their eyes glowed, feeding on my despair. Each word was a blade, cutting deeper into my hope. Another demon stepped forward, its form towering. "You had your chances," it said. "Every sermon, every prayer, every moment you felt the truth and ignored it. They're gone, left behind on earth." Their laughter grew, a cacophony that clawed at my soul. I felt like I was drowning, the weight of their words pulling me under. I thought of Luke, his love a light I'd dimmed with my lies. I saw my parents, their faith unwavering despite my rebellion. Their faces haunted me, a reminder of the love I'd taken for granted. I wanted to reach out, to tell them I was sorry, but I was trapped, isolated in this place of torment. The demons circled closer, their presence suffocating. "No one hears you here," one hissed. "Your prayers are empty, your tears meaningless." Their words were a final sentence, a declaration of my fate. Despair washed over me, a wave that threatened to extinguish the last spark of hope. Yet in that moment of utter darkness, something stirred. A voice, faint at first, broke through the chaos. "The blood of Christ has power," it whispered, soft but resolute. I thought I'd imagined it, a trick of my desperate mind, but it grew clearer, repeating with gentle insistence. The voice was a lifeline, a thread of hope in the abyss. I clung to it, my heart straining to believe. The demons' laughter faltered, their eyes narrowing. The voice grew stronger, and I realized it wasn't my imagination, it was truth, a truth I'd known but forgotten. I held on to those words, letting them anchor me. They were a reminder of the faith I'd abandoned, the love I'd rejected. In the midst of despair, they offered a glimmer of possibility, a chance to fight back against the darkness that sought to claim me. The voice was a beacon, cutting through the darkness. "The blood of Christ has power," it repeated, each word a spark in the oppressive gloom. I echoed it, my voice trembling but resolute. "The blood of Christ has power." The words felt foreign after years of neglect, but they carried a strength I hadn't known I possessed. The demons reacted instantly, their laughter turning to growls. Silence. One roared, its voice shaking the ground. "He has no power here, this is our domain." But I saw fear in their eyes, a flicker of uncertainty that fueled my courage. They were lying, and I knew it. I stood, my knees shaking but my resolve firm. "The blood of Christ has power," I shouted, pouring every ounce of faith into the words. The demons lunged, their claws slashing the air, but I didn't falter. Each declaration was a shield, pushing back the darkness that sought to consume me. Memories of my childhood faith surged forward. I saw myself singing hymns, praying with my mother, feeling God's presence. Those moments had been real, and their truth was stronger than the lies of this place. I clung to them, letting them bolster my defiance. The demons' screams grew frantic, their forms twisting in rage. "You cannot defy us." One snarled, its claws grazing my soul. The pain was excruciating, a fire that threatened to overwhelm me. But I refused to stop, my voice rising above their fury. "The blood of Christ has power," I cried, my words echoing through the abyss. The demons pressed closer, their malice a tangible force. I thought of Luke, his love a reminder of what I could still reclaim. I thought of my parents, their prayers a foundation I'd forgotten but could rebuild. The air grew thick, the shadows pulsing with anger. The demons threw everything at me: pain, fear, despair, but I held fast. Each word was a weapon, a declaration of the truth I'd once known. I saw the cross in my mind, the sacrifice that had been made for me, and it gave me strength. Suddenly, a brilliant light exploded before me, pure and blinding. The demons screamed in terror, their forms disintegrating in its radiance. I fell to my knees, shielding my eyes from the intensity. The light was warm, enveloping me in a peace I'd never known. The demons' screams faded, replaced by silence. The light lifted me, pulling me from the abyss. I felt their grasp slip away, their power broken by the truth I'd proclaimed. I was being rescued, carried upward by a force greater than any I'd encountered. As the light surrounded me, I knew I was safe. The pain, the fear, the despair, they were gone, replaced by a certainty that I was not alone. The blood of Christ had power, and it had saved me from the darkness I'd brought upon myself. When I opened my eyes again, the darkness was no more. In its place was a radiant, living light that shimmered with peace. It didn't just illuminate the space around me, it wrapped around my soul like a warm garment, driving out the last lingering cold of everything I had seen. A presence filled that place, vast, commanding, yet tender and deep within me. I knew without doubt who it was. Tears welled in my eyes, not from terror, but from reverence. Before me stood Jesus Christ. His form radiated beauty, not of this world, a brilliance that felt alive, pulsing with the heartbeat of heaven. I didn't need to be told. My soul recognized him. His gaze met mine, and in those eyes, I saw a love that pierced straight through the weight of my shame. A voice, calm, deep, and eternal, echoed gently, "I am Jesus Christ. My blood has given you a new chance." I collapsed to my knees, unable to stand under the weight of what I felt. "Thank you," I whispered, the words trembling out of me as tears spilled freely. "Thank you for loving me when I rejected you. Thank you for reaching into that place and lifting me out." His light didn't just surround me, it healed me. Each word he spoke soaked into the deepest wounds I carried, and I could feel them begin to close. "You are not rescued because you deserved it," he said, his tone unwavering yet full of grace. "You are rescued because I love you. My love is stronger than your rebellion. My mercy is greater than your sins. But I did not bring you back without purpose." Those words settled into me like seeds already beginning to grow. He stepped closer, and the glow of his presence brightened, not in harshness, but in clarity. "I want you to speak. Share what you've seen. Warn them, especially the young. Many are walking the same path you did, believing there's always more time. Tell them about hell. But above all, tell them about my grace." In his voice was urgency, but also trust. He was entrusting me with this message, this mission. Visions opened before me, not terrifying ones, but glimpses of what lay ahead. I saw myself speaking to youth, mothers, fathers, strangers. I saw crowded rooms where hearts were stirred, not by my eloquence, but by the truth I'd lived. I understood then, I had not merely survived, I had been commissioned. "Live for me," he continued, and the gravity of his words made me tremble. "Walk the path I've set, not of destruction, but of peace. The life you return to is not your own. It belongs to me now, and I will guide you every step." I nodded through the tears. "I will, Lord. I will never walk away again." The memories of my past, those nights of rebellion, those moments of deceit still flickered in my mind, but they no longer held me. His presence was like a cleansing fire, burning away the weight I had once carried. I was not the same. I was made new. The shame didn't disappear, it was redeemed. "I'll tell them, Lord," I said, steadier now. "I'll speak of what you've shown me. I'll never be silent." Jesus smiled, and I felt the full force of heaven's mercy in that single expression. Behind that smile was the cross, the price he paid for this moment and for my soul. I bowed my head in awe. The light intensified, surrounding me like a cloak. I saw glimpses of the life to come, not perfect, but full of purpose. I would rebuild what I'd broken, not alone, but with him. I saw Luke, my parents, the faces of those I would one day meet. I would return different, not only rescued, but transformed. In the stillness of that holy moment, the horrors of hell faded like shadows at dawn. What remained was Jesus, his love, his call, his commission. And as the light carried me back, I knew this was not an ending, but the beginning of a life I was finally ready to live. I awoke beneath the cold, sterile light of a hospital ceiling, the beeping of machines the first sound to greet my return. My eyes fluttered open slowly, my body still heavy with weakness, but unmistakably alive. The world I'd left behind, dark, fiery, and eternal, was gone, and in its place came the scent of antiseptic and the steady hum of life support. In that fragile moment, I realized I'd been given something most souls never receive: a second chance. The first voice I heard was my mother's. She was praying, her words trembling but fierce. "The blood of Jesus has power." Her hands wrapped around mine, clinging as if her grip alone could keep me from slipping away again. When our eyes met, hers filled with tears and awe, she cried out, "She's awake." Thank God. Her arms enveloped me, anchoring me back to earth with the weight of a mother's love. My father stood just beside her, his face lined with exhaustion and reverence. Always the pillar of strength, now he was weeping silently, holding my other hand with a firmness that spoke volumes. For a man who seldom showed emotion, that single tear was more powerful than 1,000 sermons. He didn't need to say it, I knew he had never stopped believing that I could return. Nurses soon rushed in, calling out medical terms I couldn't grasp. Tubes, monitors, and instructions swirled around me like white noise. But none of it mattered, not after what I had seen. I had witnessed hell, felt its fire, heard the unending cries of the damned, and then I had felt the hand of Jesus lift me from that abyss. With effort, I turned my head and whispered, "I saw hell." The room froze. My voice was raspy, but each word struck like lightning. I saw what happens when we turn our backs on God, but Jesus saved me. His blood has power. I'll never walk away again. The words came not just from my lips, but from the depths of my soul. My mother collapsed into quiet sobs, clutching my hand like a lifeline. Through her tears she whispered, "We never stopped praying. We always believed God had a plan for you." My father's lips trembled as he nodded. "You're our miracle," he said, his voice breaking at last. In their eyes I saw not just relief but answered prayer. As I lay there in that narrow bed, flashes of hell still haunted me: the heat, the screams, the demon's voice accusing me with every breath. But even more powerful was the memory of Jesus, his voice wise, his light, his mercy. He had not abandoned me, he had rescued me. And I knew he had done it for a purpose greater than I had yet grasped. The days that followed passed in slow rhythm, a blur of rest and recovery. Though my body remained frail, my spirit burned with new fire. I began sharing what I had seen, starting with my parents, recounting every horror and every miracle. My mother never stopped holding my hand, and my father listened as a shepherd hearing a sacred calling. I called Luke. I knew I had to. The guilt pressed against my chest like stone. When he walked into the hospital room, I saw pain written across his face, mingled with overwhelming relief. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered. I told him everything: my betrayal, the party, the drugs, the darkness. He listened without interruption, eyes never leaving mine. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then he took my hand and said, "I forgive you." I cried like a child in his arms. Word of my experience spread quickly. My father invited me to speak at our church. That Sunday I stood at the front, trembling but determined, and shared my testimony. I told them about the flames, the torment, and the mercy I never deserved. Faces in the congregation were streaked with tears, especially the youth. I saw in their eyes the same ache for meaning that had once filled me, and I knew I had been sent back for them. Beyond the church walls, I spoke at local gatherings, community groups, even public schools. Every time I shared my story, I felt the urgency grow stronger. "Hell is real," I said, "but so is God's love. Don't wait until it's too late." Each time I told the story, I remembered the flames that had almost consumed me and the voice that had pulled me out. Clara came to see me. Her vibrant energy was gone, replaced by a heavy silence. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know it would go so far." I embraced her without hesitation. "None of us did," I said. "But we still have time. Turn back while you can." She nodded, tears welling, and for the first time I saw true fear and hope in her eyes. Everywhere I went, I ended my message with the same declaration: the blood of Christ has power. Don't wait until it's too late. My life had been pulled from the fire, not to be hidden, but to be lit like a torch. I was no longer the girl who had chased freedom into destruction. I was a voice crying out for others to wake up before it was too late. To you hearing this now, the message is clear: don't delay. After death comes judgment, and there's no turning back. Jesus waits with open arms, ready to forgive and redeem. His love is greater than any mistake, but you must choose him now, while there's still time. Before every great event, God always sends a sign. It doesn't come with thunder or flashing headlines, but like a quiet whisper hidden in the testimonies of those still willing to listen. These signs are not for the crowds, but for the watchful, the awake, the watchful still seek truth beyond the noise. And the story you're about to hear is one of them. He was once a scientist, a man who trusted reason above all else. But an accident in Antarctica led to his death, and in the moment his soul left his body, Jesus revealed to him a terrifying truth. Antarctica is not just ice and rock, but a prison sealing away something that was never meant to be released. Now, whether by accident or design, mankind is breaking this seal, paving the way for the greatest deception in human history. What is being hidden, and what will happen when things that should never emerge are unleashed? Listen to this story before it's too late. Hello, Eternal Bible Stories. My name is Martin Hayes, a geophysicist, a man who once placed absolute faith in science. I never believed in God, nor did I concern myself with anything supernatural. To me, only what could be measured and observed was real. But all of that belief shattered on February 12, 2025, the day I died. Before that moment, I thought Antarctica was just a frozen wasteland, a place where scientists like me studied climate and geology, but I was wrong. Not just wrong, but blind to the terrifying truth hidden beneath the eternal ice. When my soul left my body, I met Jesus Christ, and he opened my eyes to a reality that the world's governments never want us to know. The truth about Antarctica, about what lies buried beneath the ice, and about the deception that is coming. If you're ready to listen, this is my story. As a geophysicist, I had spent years studying the geological structures beneath Antarctica, analyzing seismic activity and ice formations. When my team first detected mysterious electromagnetic signals coming from deep below the ice, I assumed it was simply an unexplained scientific anomaly. The signals followed no known pattern, appearing and disappearing in irregular cycles, almost as if they were responding to something unseen. I believed that we were about to uncover something groundbreaking, a scientific breakthrough that would rewrite everything we knew about Antarctica. But I was wrong, terribly wrong. That day, our mission was to drill deeper than ever before, targeting a site that had been under strict government control for years. The deeper we drilled, the more unsettling the anomalies became. GPS trackers failed, their signals disappearing into static, while communication systems flickered in and out, like they were being jammed by an unknown force. Even the radio, our only lifeline to the outside world, began to pick up something terrifying. At first it was faint, barely perceptible beneath the hum of machinery, but then it grew louder. Distorted whispers, voices speaking in a language none of us recognized. My colleagues exchanged uneasy glances, each of us silently wondering the same thing. Were we really alone out here? Then, the temperature beneath the ice began to rise. At first we thought it was a glitch in our sensors, but the readings remained consistent. There was an unnatural heat source deep within the frozen wasteland. Logically, the ice should have been stable, untouched by warmth for thousands of years, yet the deeper we drilled, the more intense the heat became. The air in the tunnels grew charged, pulsing with an electric presence, making our instruments flicker wildly as if something beneath us was interfering with them. It was as if the ice itself was reacting to our intrusion, warning us to stop before it was too late. And then, at exactly 11:42 a.m., the unthinkable happened. Before I could react, the ice beneath my feet gave way, swallowing me into the abyss. The cold was beyond comprehension, piercing through my body like 1,000 knives. I flailed helplessly as I plunged into darkness, consumed by the freezing void. Somewhere in the chaos, I heard my radio crackle with frantic voices. "Martin! Martin, are you there?" The desperation in their screams was unmistakable, but I was already beyond their reach. I wanted to answer, to let them know I was still alive, but the ice closed in around me, drowning out their voices. In that final moment before unconsciousness took me, I realized a horrifying truth. I had gone where no human was ever meant to go. Then everything faded to black. When I opened my eyes, I immediately knew I was no longer part of this world. There was no air, no sound, no sense of time. I was floating, weightless, suspended between two realms, and beneath me I saw my own body, lifeless, broken, buried beneath shattered ice. My team was scrambling toward me, their voices frantic through the radio. "Martin, do you copy? Can you hear us?" But I couldn't respond. I wasn't there anymore. And yet, despite the surreal horror of the moment, I wasn't afraid. There was no panic, no pain, no desperation to return. Instead, I felt an overwhelming lightness, a freedom unlike anything I had ever known. It was as if a great weight, the burdens of my mortal existence, the doubts, the anxieties, had suddenly lifted. I had spent my life pursuing knowledge, desperately trying to measure and define the mysteries of the universe. And yet, in this moment, I realized how little I had truly understood. Then I saw them. At the edge of the abyss stood figures of light, motionless and silent, watching me. They weren't human, nor did they resemble anything I had ever encountered. They did not move, did not speak, yet their presence was more powerful than anything I had ever experienced. A divine authority radiated from them, an energy so vast it made the laws of physics I once trusted seem insignificant. I knew instinctively they were not of this world. They were something far beyond human comprehension. For the first time, I felt something other than peace, awe, reverence, the realization that I was standing at the threshold of something eternal. And then I sensed it, a force, unseen yet undeniable, pulling me forward. It was not forceful, yet I could not resist it. It was like a silent call, an invitation that transcended words, reaching into the core of my being. I knew I had to follow. Before me, a tunnel of radiant light opened up. But this was not merely a beam of illumination. It was alive. It pulsed, it breathed, as if it had a consciousness of its own. Colors beyond human perception danced within it, shifting and merging in ways that defied logic. It wasn't just light. It was a passage, a doorway leading somewhere far beyond anything I had ever imagined. I hesitated only for a moment, not out of fear but out of the sheer magnitude of what was unfolding before me, and then, without thinking, without questioning, I stepped forward. And that was when I met him. Martin. A voice echoed through the vastness around me, a voice unlike any I had ever heard. It was both thunder and whisper, power and gentleness, a force that shook my very essence while simultaneously wrapping me in an indescribable peace. The instant I heard it, I knew this was Jesus. I turned, and the moment my eyes met his, a love beyond comprehension engulfed me. It wasn't like the fleeting affections of the world, nor the conditional love I had known in life. This love was pure, unshakable, eternal. It rushed over me like a flood, burning through every doubt, every fear, every layer of skepticism that had once shielded my heart. It was the presence of the Holy One, the Son of God, and I trembled, not in fear, but in absolute reverence. He stood before me, radiant, his very being pulsing with an otherworldly light that was alive, holy, and infinite. His eyes, those eyes, held power beyond galaxies, yet they gazed at me with an intimate compassion that stripped me bare. In his gaze I saw everything I was, everything I had been, and yet I felt no condemnation, only mercy. You have been chosen to witness this. What you are about to see must be shared. The moment he spoke, the reality around me shifted in an instant. One moment I was suspended in a realm beyond time. The next, I was soaring above the earth itself. Gone was the icy wasteland of Antarctica. Gone was the fissure, the ruins, the darkness. Instead, I was above it all, looking down upon the world from a perspective no satellite had ever captured. The earth stretched out beneath me, vast and breathtaking, yet something was wrong. What I saw shattered me. From above, I saw the truth. Antarctica was not just an icy wasteland, but a fortress, a prison, a seal concealing something beyond human comprehension. Beneath the miles of frozen silence, ancient structures loomed, colossal cities, towering fortresses, and entities that did not belong to this world. They had not crumbled with time. They were waiting. For years I had believed Antarctica was nothing more than an empty expanse of ice, but now, standing beside Jesus Christ, I knew the truth. Everything we had been taught about this place was a lie. Jesus turned to face the immense wall of ice stretching beyond sight. His voice carried both divine authority and deep sorrow. These walls were placed here for a reason. This is not just frozen land. It is a seal, a boundary set by divine decree to imprison something that should never be released. A chill ran down my spine. This ice was never meant to keep us out. It was meant to keep something else in. Below, I saw human research teams, scientists, engineers, government officials, all working tirelessly. Massive drills pierced the ice. Machines hummed as they carved deeper into the frozen abyss. I watched them, oblivious to the danger they were unleashing, or perhaps some of them knew and chose to continue anyway. Governments had hidden this truth for decades, not to protect the public, but to prepare for something much larger. Secret meetings, classified files, whispered conversations behind locked doors. I saw it all. This was never about exploration. It was about unlocking a door that was never meant to be opened. I watched as their plan unfolded step by step. First, they would slowly leak information, small reports of strange discoveries, ancient ruins, anomalies beneath the ice. The media would normalize the idea that Antarctica was hiding great mysteries. Then, at the right moment, they would announce a revelation that would shake humanity, that we were never alone. That the entities beneath the ice were not enemies, but our ancestors, our guides, our creators. And the world would believe them. I turned to Jesus, but before I could speak, he showed me the future, a chilling vision of what would happen once the seal was broken. I saw the entities rise from the depths, stepping into the light not as conquerors, but as saviors. Cities erupted in celebration, crowds gathered, eyes lifted in awe. They welcomed the deception with open arms. World leaders stood side by side with them, shaking hands, smiling, proclaiming the dawn of a new era. But it was all a lie. These beings were not gods or teachers. They were exiled long ago, sealed away because their presence threatened the balance of creation. Now, under the guise of enlightenment, they would return and humanity would surrender willingly. Jesus turned to me, his eyes filled with sorrow. Satan does not force mankind into destruction. He deceives them. He makes evil look like good. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. I had seen it. The deception was already in motion. Then Jesus revealed the final horror. I saw what would come after the great unveiling. Nations collapsed. Governments were dismantled, replaced by a single centralized order, one authority ruling over all. Freedom was an illusion. Those who resisted were silenced, cast out, labeled as enemies of progress. Faith, especially Christianity, became the greatest threat. Churches were shut down, Bibles were outlawed. The name of Jesus Christ was erased from history. Humanity, blinded by false promises, had handed over its future to something it did not understand. I turned to Jesus, my heart pounding with dread. How can they not see? His voice was filled with both sadness and urgency. Because they have been prepared for this for decades. I realized then why I had been shown all of this, not to change what was coming, but to warn those who would listen. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. There is still hope, but only if they wake up. Then, everything shattered. I gasped, jerking back into my body. Machines beeped frantically. I heard doctors shouting, "He's back!" The sterile smell of the hospital filled my lungs. I had been dead for 12 minutes. But I knew I had returned for a reason. When the final gateway was opened, humanity did not resist. They did not fear or question. Instead, they welcomed these entities with open arms, believing them to be gods, benefactors of mankind. I saw the media praising this as the greatest moment in human history, a monumental leap forward for civilization. They called it the dawn of a new age, an era where war, disease, and suffering would be no more. World leaders stood together on grand stages, smiling as they shook hands with those they believed to be humanity's true creators. They declared that the age of man had ended and a new order, a new evolution, had begun. At first, the world truly changed for the better. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were eradicated in a matter of days. The paralyzed stood up and walked again, as if they had never lost their ability to move. Technology advanced at an unprecedented rate. Intelligent machines, biosynthetic enhancements, all serving one purpose: to elevate humans into a higher form of existence. Life became effortless. Pain and suffering seemed to disappear. Death itself appeared to be defeated. But I knew that all of this was merely an illusion, a carefully crafted deception concealing something far more terrifying than anything I could have imagined. I saw something introduced to society, a new technology, a mark hailed as a gift from the gods. Governments promoted it as humanity's greatest achievement. Those who first accepted it became icons of a new generation, stronger, smarter, capable of connecting with the world in ways previously unimaginable. It was not just a microchip, it was not merely an implant, it was a transformation of human nature itself. It did not just alter the body, it altered the soul. And the most horrifying part was that no one was forced to take it. There was no coercion, no mandates, no government decree. Everyone accepted it willingly. They eagerly embraced this mark, believing it would lead them toward the next step in human evolution. Scientists hailed it as the greatest technological breakthrough in history. Philosophers claimed it was the key to human perfection. Even misguided religious leaders stood on stages, assuring their followers that it did not go against God, but rather aligned with His will. But I saw the truth. I saw the ones who had taken the mark. They were no longer themselves. They walked, they talked, they smiled, but something inside them had changed. Something vital had been stripped away. Jesus stood beside me, his eyes filled with sorrow. "They are not being forced," he said, "they are desiring it." I saw those who had accepted the mark try to pray, but there was nothing. No connection, no voice in their hearts. The door between them and God had been slammed shut forever. They could no longer hear Him, could no longer feel His presence. A cold silence enveloped them, yet they did not even realize what they had lost. They still believed they were the same, still thought they had their souls, but in truth they had surrendered them without even knowing. Horror consumed me as I turned to Jesus. How do they not see it? How could they willingly give themselves away like this? I cried out in despair. Jesus looked at me, his gaze heavy with grief. because they have been prepared for this for decades. And in that instant I understood what he meant. I saw the enemy's plan unfold before my eyes. For years, humanity had been conditioned to believe they did not need God. Education systems had removed him from textbooks. Media had turned faith into something outdated and obsolete. Society had been programmed to trust in science and technology as their saviors, rather than their creator. They had been led to believe that one day they could become gods themselves. And when that day arrived, they embraced it without hesitation, never realizing they had walked straight into a carefully laid trap, centuries in the making. I saw a global control system being put into place. Those who refused the mark were cast out, labeled as rebels, obstacles to progress. They could not buy, could not sell, could not participate in society. Many would give in, not because they wanted to, but because they could not bear the burden of isolation. But I also saw those who remained steadfast, those who refused to bow to this great deception. They were like small flickering lights in an ever-darkening world, yet their glow burned brighter than anything I had ever seen. Jesus turned to me. "You must go back and warn them," he said. "Let those with ears hear. Let those with eyes see. The door has not yet closed, but time is running out." A weight pressed upon my soul. I knew that when I returned, I would carry a burden that few would understand. But I also knew I could not remain silent. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, and immediately I felt a powerful force sweep through me. The vision blurred, the light dimmed, and I felt myself being pulled backward, falling, spiraling through the void. I opened my eyes, gasping for air as I felt my body once again, and the first thing I heard was the beeping of medical monitors around me. I had returned, I had survived, but the world had not, and now I had to warn them before it was too late. I didn't want to leave. In the presence of Jesus, I felt a peace that surpassed anything I had ever known, a love so pure and overwhelming that no words could fully describe it. Every fiber of my soul longed to stay, to remain in that eternal embrace where there was no pain, no fear, no sorrow, only perfect harmony with the one who created me. But then, Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, and I saw something in his eyes that shook me to my core. There was love, boundless and eternal, but there was also sorrow, an urgency that told me my time here had ended. His voice was gentle yet filled with unwavering authority. "You must go back. You must warn them." A deep ache rose within me. How could I leave? How could I return to a world filled with deception and darkness after experiencing the absolute truth? I opened my mouth to plead, to beg for just a moment longer, but before I could utter a word, everything around me shattered like a fragile mirror. The radiant light disappeared in an instant, and an immense force pulled me downward, dragging me away from the heavenly realm. My soul screamed, not from physical pain, but from the devastating realization that I was leaving his presence. A deafening beeping sound filled the air, voices, urgent, panicked. I gasped, my chest convulsing as my body jerked violently back to life. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled my nostrils, burning with the reality that I had returned. My vision blurred as I blinked against the blinding white lights of the hospital room. The weight of my body, the heaviness of the world, crashed down upon me like an unbearable burden. The pain, the exhaustion, the limitations of flesh, I felt it all once more. Shouts erupted around me. Doctors and nurses froze, their faces a mixture of disbelief and fear. I could hear the muffled murmurs, the stammered whispers of confusion. A young nurse covered her mouth, eyes wide with shock. A doctor, his voice barely above a whisper, muttered under his breath, "This isn't possible. He was gone for 12 minutes." I struggled to sit up, my body weak but my mind racing. I had seen the truth, I had witnessed what was coming, and now I carried a burden far heavier than death itself. My voice cracked as I forced out the only words that mattered. Jesus is real. The deception is coming. Antarctica is not what we think it is. A suffocating silence filled the room. Some of the medical staff exchanged uneasy glances, their rational minds struggling to comprehend what I had just said. Others shook their heads, dismissing my words as the ramblings of a man who had been to the brink of death. But there was one, the young nurse, who stepped forward, her face pale but her expression resolute. "I've heard things about Antarctica, things we're not supposed to know," she whispered, as if afraid someone else might hear. The doctor beside her shot her a sharp glance, silently warning her to remain professional. But I had seen the look in her eyes. It was not skepticism, it was recognition. She knew something, and in that moment I realized that what I had been shown was not just a warning, it was happening. For the next few days, as I remained in the hospital recovering, I wrestled with what to do. Who would believe me? Scientists would dismiss me as delusional, skeptics would tear me apart, but the visions didn't stop. Every night, images flashed before my eyes, events unfolding like pieces of a puzzle forming before me. News headlines announcing groundbreaking discoveries in Antarctica. Scientists standing before cameras unveiling new evidence about human origins. Political leaders speaking of a new age of enlightenment. I saw the deception taking shape, piece by piece, exactly as Jesus had revealed. I couldn't stay silent, so I started small. I shared my testimony with a few close friends, those I knew had open hearts. Some believed me immediately, their spirits recognizing the truth. Others hesitated, too afraid of what it would mean if I was right. But then one thing happened that confirmed everything. A former government official, someone with deep ties to classified Antarctic research, reached out to me in secret. "You're not wrong, Martin," he said. "There's something under that ice, and they're getting ready to reveal it to the world, but not in the way you think." I pressed him for more details, but he refused to say much. Before ending the call, he left me with one final warning. "When they announce it, don't believe a word they say." That was the moment I knew. I had to warn as many people as possible. If you're hearing this, it means the deception has begun. Do not trust what they tell you. The ice walls were never meant to be broken. The world will soon witness so-called miracles, but they will be false. You must stay grounded in the truth. Hold fast to Jesus. This is my testimony. This is why I was sent back. Now the choice is yours. I knew I could not stay silent. What I had seen was not a hallucination, not a fleeting dream that I could easily forget. This was a warning, a terrifying truth that humanity was about to face. The government was preparing to announce a historic discovery about Antarctica. They would stand before the cameras with solemn voices and excited expressions, proclaiming that they had uncovered shocking evidence hidden beneath the ice. They would declare that this was a momentous event, a gateway to a new era for humanity. But I knew it was all a carefully orchestrated lie. They would not tell you the truth. They would not reveal that they had known about these entities for decades. They would not admit that they had been conditioning the public little by little, through articles, through science fiction films, through speeches, implanting the belief that we are not alone, that higher beings have been watching over and guiding us since the dawn of time. They would not say that the entities they were about to introduce were not friends of humanity, but ancient adversaries who had been sealed away since the beginning. They would not tell you that they, the ones manipulating this world, had deliberately broken that seal, not for the benefit of humankind, but for something far more sinister. I saw what would happen after this great discovery was revealed. At first there would be celebration. People would rejoice, believing this was the moment of humanity's awakening, the breakthrough that would change the course of history. The media would flood the airwaves with reports. Scientists would appear on television explaining the new truth that we must accept. Religious leaders would be divided, some warning against it, others embracing it, lost in the sweet deception. But soon, the initial excitement would give way to control. These beings would present a gift, a new technology, knowledge beyond human comprehension. They would claim that this was the path to perfection. And then, I saw people willingly give themselves away. They would crave this new advancement, eagerly embracing the enhancements they believed would make them stronger, live longer, and even achieve immortality. But they did not realize the price they would pay was their soul. I saw those who had taken this mark of progress. They were still alive, still breathing, still speaking, but something within them was gone. Their eyes were empty, their voices hollow. They had lost the most precious thing a human being can have, their connection to God. Once they had accepted it, they no longer belonged to Him. They could no longer pray with sincerity, could no longer feel the presence of the Holy Spirit. A door had closed. Forever. I beg you, do not be deceived. I know what I'm saying sounds insane. I know there will be those who mock me, who call me delusional, but I don't care. I don't have time to fear ridicule. I have seen the truth. I have heard the warning from Jesus Christ Himself, and I would rather be called crazy than stay silent while the world walks into this trap. This is not a joke. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is war. Not a war between nations, not a battle between political ideologies, but a war between light and darkness, between truth and deception. Jesus warned us thousands of years ago, "Be watchful, lest you be deceived." And now, that moment has come. You can feel it, can't you? You can see how the world is changing in strange ways, how everything seems to be spiraling out of control. You can see the chaos growing, the divisions deepening. This is not random, this is part of the plan. Those who control this world are preparing for a great turning point, and it is coming sooner than you think. I beg you, pray. Cling to Jesus Christ. Do not let promises of progress, knowledge, or enlightenment lead you astray. Do not let well-dressed individuals standing before cameras with charts and scientific evidence deceive you. Do not let them turn you into part of the greatest deception in human history. The time has come. Stay awake. Do not be deceived.